And thank you for coming back. And we're talking with Craig about many things environmental. Hemp, what is it that you've only recently started planting?
Yeah, this is our very first season. We've got a licence from the New South Wales Department of Health, and they've been very helpful in getting that. And it's to grow basically what's called low THC hemp, which is, it's got 0.03 THC, which is the active ingredient if you were to smoke it. And that level is so low that if you did come in and steal my crops and smoked it, any high you have would be completely placebo. You're
drawing in a lot of fresh air?
Yeah, you're telling yourself you're high.
Okay, and so how much are you allowed to put on acreage?
Well, we could have planted up to 30 hectares, I believe, but we've only planted about 1,000 square metres.
Okay, and what are you going to do with the 1,000 square metres when it's full?
Yeah. This year, it's to celebrate the fact that we've successfully grown a crop and collect the seeds so that we can basically have our own stock for next year's and just keep growing our own stock of seed. Because we've got a particular strain that's been imported from India and China, Italy and China, and it's supposed to be textile grade. And what's supposed to be revolutionary about this seed is you're supposed to be able to place it into a cotton loom and weave it, unlike existing grades of hemp where you actually need to reconfigure your whole loom. So it's an economical, a little bit revolutionary seed.
Okay. Now, I was aware that hemp had a number of uses. When I spoke to you, I hadn't realised the diversity. Can you give us a good cross-section of how hemp...
Yeah, you can use it from anything from soap to clothes to food. You can make DVD covers out of it. It's like a plastic replacement, or actually, historically, it's the other way around. Plastic is a replacement for hemp. And yeah, clothes, fabrics, ropes, sails, paper. It's actually high quality, much more higher grade paper than wood chips.
What else?
Yeah,
medicinal?
Medicinal. There's some people advocating medicinal purposes, but yeah, I'm not. My crop is not usable for that because it's got no THC. But I'm not big on that area, so I don't know how that's going, and I don't know the science behind it. But certainly, there's a movement behind medicinal hemp.
Okay.
Certainly, plenty of anecdotal evidence for it.
Yeah. Okay. You were telling me about the history of hemp being grown in America.
Yeah.
Can you just share a little bit of that? How the American government got farmers to grow it and then stop them?
Well, they didn't get farmers to grow it. The farmers have grown it for generations. There's thousands of years. Hemp has been a staple crop all around the world for fibre, for ropes, for clothes, for all kinds of things. And then in the early 20s, there was basically, I think it came from Mexico, if my history gets me correctly. The Mexicans were smoking it as well as growing it for other things.
No, but I mean not the smoking. Didn't the government want the farmers to grow it because it was utilised for one of the wars?
Yes, but this is where I'm going from. There was a campaign in the 20s and 30s by DuPont and a particular American bureaucrat and others to get hemp banned because they realised people could smoke it. So it was a competition to both petrochemical industries, i.e. DuPont, and the tobacco industries and cotton, which was at that time an emerging industry. And so the American government successfully was lobbied to ban hemp in the late 30s. But during the war, they suddenly realised they didn't have enough ropes, enough canvas, because nobody was growing hemp anymore. So they actually were basically through proper means, forcing farmers to grow hemp during the war years to supply the war effort. But once the war was over, they removed it all again.
For 50 years, hemp has been categorised as an illicit drug, but it was once one of the world's largest agricultural crops. Last century, hemp fibre was a major source of paper, cloth and rope. The seed provided food and oil for lighting. The flowering tops were an important source of medicine. Today, a new strain of hemp with no drug content has the potential to reinstate cannabis in mainstream agriculture. It could help reverse the planet's environmental degradation. But hemp, even the non-drug variety, remains illegal throughout most of the world. Dr. Andrew Catalaris is a registrar in forensic medicine, but his part-time crusade has been to restore the status of a plant the world has been trying to eradicate for most of this century.
It's entirely hypocritical that cannabis is not available to treat a multitude of human problems, such as the wasting disease associated with HIV, hemp drugs should be available to all those who may benefit and who need them.
There's thousands of acres in depressed rural areas just crying out for a high value-added crop, and I think hemp is the ideal crop. I really do think it could rejuvenate rural Australia and Australia as a whole.
Andrew's conviction is shared by a number of farmers who are looking seriously at the viability of growing hemp as an alternative crop to cotton.
We think that's a good opportunity to introduce rural employment and export dollars as well.
Yeah, well, the phobia and inhibitions that people have got about marijuana can be put aside, or the recognition that this is not a drug-related crop. Once it achieves respectability, it'll be all systems go, I'm sure.
The drug content of hemp is found only in the leaves and flowering heads. Much work has been done in Europe to breed varieties with very low levels of the psychoactive chemical tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC. It's these strains which are forwarding hemp's return into mainstream agriculture. These plants might look like other cannabis plants, but you could smoke an entire field and get nothing more than a headache. But the law does not differentiate between varieties, and even non-drug strains are still prohibited, despite their huge industrial potential.
The usefulness of hemp comes from the long, strong fibre which is found on the outside of the plant. It's the strongest of all natural fibres, and that's what's used for the fabric. It's also used for the more traditional uses of ropes and twines, and it can be used in the manufacture of best quality paper. The short fibre in the inside of the plant, the hurd, is composed of about 77% cellulose, and it can be used in the production of alcoholic fuels, such as ethanol, to run our vehicles in a non-polluting way. It can be used as a base for biodegradable plastics, such as cellophane and other more recent biodegradable plastic based on cellulose. It's an extremely useful plant.
Hemp has served mankind for over 12,000 years and was once one of the world's most traded commodities. In the early American colony, hemp was such an important crop, farmers were directed to grow the plant. It was legal tender and could be used to pay taxes. In England, Queen Victoria took cannabis extract to relieve her premenstrual tension. For centuries, the canvas sails and rigging of the world's ships were made from hemp. Van Gogh, like most artists, painted on hemp canvas. The original Levi jeans were made from hemp, even the US flag. Here in Holland, the hemp fibre industry is being revived by the government, which has invested more than $15 million in researching non-drug varieties of hemp